Ramaphosa is going to chair a cabinet meeting today to urgently address the rolling blackouts. It might answer the question, what can the president actually do about this? Now, to remind you, on Sunday, he held an urgent meeting with ministers and officials to discuss the crisis. Now, remember, at the time, of course, the president was over in the United Kingdom for the funeral of a late Queen Elizabeth. He's returned from that trip over to the UK. So stage 5 power cuts on the go at the moment, but Aviwe Mtila, senior reporter, is covering this for us. He live from the Union Buildings for us this morning. And stage 5 power cuts, so blackouts is where we are now, maybe stage 4 a little bit later. So what are we expecting when the minister, when the president is going to have this cabinet meeting? Because Aviwe, many people are wondering, what can the president really do anyway, apart from have meetings?
It's a very good question, Gareth, and I'm just at the doorstep of South Africa's seat of power, the Union Buildings. It is 8 o'clock, and that's when, in fact, we're expecting that cabinet meeting to get underway here. And I look up in the skies and I see the grey skies above me, and it makes me wonder the frustrations that would be building up to many South Africans, given that it's going to be bitterly cold, especially into the next couple of days, knowing that currently on stage 5 at the moment, where many South Africans will be without their heaters for at least 9 hours in the day. So those discussions are crucial insight as to what realistically can be done. I mean, we do know that, for example, CEO of eSCA, Andre Director, did promise when he came in that he'll tackle and grapple with the scourge of load shedding within 18 months. It's been 2 years now, so nothing has happened. It seems to be worsening, in fact, without a proper plan from eSCA, except for being told that possibly by Thursday we can go to stage 4. So there's no concrete plan in terms of what's going to happen in the coming months. So maybe those discussions will be happening inside what the future of the CEO of eSCA could be. For example, we've been speaking to many South Africans quite frustrated on the grounds on the coming days. Some of them wearing and fearing for their jobs, for example, as they stuck in traffic, not knowing what time they'll get to work. Some of them on the last warning, some of the gentlemen that we were speaking to yesterday. But what is certain is that load shedding, Gareth, at this stage is still going to stay around with us. A conversation, in fact, that we had yesterday with Mark Schilling from the University of Stellenbosch. Let's take a look at that energy expert.
Well, I think we need to be realistic in the sense that it takes a minimum of 2 years to actually build a solar and wind power plant. And bid window, as we've already said, bid window 5 has not reached financial close. So the drastic intervention that could really shorten the period that we have to live with load shedding would be to sort out bid window 5. That might mean get all the successful bidders together and reach some kind of negotiated deal on how this is going to work. They're all competing with one another, so that is going to take some doing to make sure that we have some kind of collective response for the sake of the nation to get those plants, to start construction of those plants as quickly as possible. That should be a top priority. We should also do whatever is necessary to unblock those who would like to build large-scale embedded generation projects, 100 megawatts and above. Just make sure they have access to the capital, the regulatory requirements have been met, and they can start. But they're not sufficient a number of those projects coming forward. So those would be the two big ones. But I think we need to be realistic. We're going to be sitting with load shedding for at least 2 more years. And the best that we can hope for is that the power stations that Eskom is managing don't get worse. So we need to get out of stage 6, stage 5, and get back into stage 1 and 2. So and ideally, back to normal. But that's going to really take a while. What the Eskom officials have made very clear, they can't predict what is going to happen tomorrow. There's high levels of uncertainty, and we're all living on the edge of those high levels. They can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. They can take power stations off for planned maintenance, as they call it, but tomorrow another power station can trip, and they just don't know. And that's because of the poor condition of these plants. So I don't think anyone can predict that we're going to get out of stages 5 and 6 for a prolonged period of time. We just don't know.
Oh, well, Aviwe, I think many people would appreciate the fact that you and I are talking about power issues and you're standing just on the lawn of the seat of power for our government. I suppose the question is, what power does the president have to have any direct effect over this? Because as we just heard from your guest a moment ago, we could expect another 2 years of load shedding at this level. Right now, it's a guessing game, and people are getting sick and tired, aren't they, of hearing the president say, be patient. It's simply not good enough, is it?
And we've heard that time and again, Gareth. We heard it even a few months ago where the president detailed and outlined plans that would help alleviate the burden of load shedding. But the reality is our failing infrastructure within the power stations are becoming a reality. One example would be of that industrial substation that blew out over the weekend, leaving many communities without power for at least 3 days. In fact, it's a conversation that I had with the MMC of Environment and Safety, Michael Sun, here in Johannesburg, who did say, in fact, that it was because of the load shedding subsiding and that power coming back on to the industrial substation that led to it blowing up. That would talk to how aged the infrastructure is there. And he even went on to mention how these power stations now can't handle, for example, the on and off that is continuous with load shedding, can't handle the advent of load shedding, for example. So while we know that we're still going to wait a while for the IPPs to kick into place for at least 2 more years, the big question is what can be done in the interim, as our aging infrastructure is really a burden on many South Africans and the load shedding itself.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no short-term solution. There's a shorter-term solution, and then we start looking at IPPs and the building of power plants. But this is going to be a problem for a very long time. But we wait to see if there's some kind of short-term solution later today. The moment we hear anything about it, Aviwe Mtila will have it for us, live from the Union Buildings for us this morning as we continue our focus on the blackouts rolling around the country, destroying appliances, destroying the economy, and destroying jobs as well. We'll go back to Aviwe, I'm sure, a little bit later. Let's take a quick